Hi everyone, I'm Shelly and you're watching There's No Place Like Home. Today it's time for another installment of my Question the Narrative series, formerly called Question Everything. And today I'm going to breach a topic that is taboo for many people. I have some questions about the International Space Station. So before I go too far into this, I have a caveat here. I used to love NASA. I have a great uncle. I had a great uncle. He passed away, but he actually worked for NASA. I'm not sure if he worked directly for NASA or if he was a contractor or a subcontractor. I was pretty small, but I know that he lived in San Antonio, Texas. He worked for NASA, and our family always talked about how he designed the first astronaut helmet. Although my brother tells me it was the first suit, I don't know because I've actually looked it up and his name does not come up anywhere unless it was just some sort of prototype that they never used. But the fact remains that I thought NASA was really cool, and I thought it was really cool that my great uncle worked for them. But, back in 2017, when I first started what I would call my awakening into the truth about things, I came across some videos that really started me questioning not only NASA, but also the International Space Station and the validity of it. And it started out with just a few videos that I happened to see, and I'm not going to show you all of them. But what these videos show are what look like manipulation of while they're on the space station. And a lot of these things are happening live. Now here you're going to see a man go past wearing a harness. Why do they need to wear harnesses on the space station? The space station, that's a really good question. So beyond that, and it says right here, waist harness combined with knee harness to lift and tip forward. So this is just something that you see happening a lot with the space station. Here it looks like he is maybe moving some kind of wire. He moves his hat, his hands move over to the side. And there's lots of really weird videos showing maybe it would look like an astronaut bending over and you will see their shirt lifting up like they have wires attached to it. And this is just one video. And I've got to say that these videos are actually really hard to find now. They're not nearly as easy as they used to be. So here we have Tim Peake. He is, I believe, a British astronaut. And here he's doing some sort of little trick. If it's going to go, I don't know. You going to start for me? There we go. So he's going to do some sort of little trick while he is supposedly on the space station. So there he goes with a little bubble. And we're just going to watch this for just a minute. And then what you're going to see is that in a room, I believe at NASA, there was a screen, and it actually shows Tim Peake in front of a screen. And he is actually practicing the trick that he had there. Right there, you see George Bush going by, and see him in the background? There he is in front of, I forget what those screens are called, but it's kind of like a green screen. So why is that necessary if that's where he was? Oh, chroma key. That's what it was called, was chroma key. And that just shows a little bit more of that. And that's it for that video that I wanted to show you. And obviously, I'm not going to spend too much time on these videos. I just wanted to show you that there's a lot of stuff. Right there, some more CGI manipulation. I'll show you that again. So there she is. This was supposedly live. And then all of a sudden, boom, there he shows up. So again, how is all this stuff happening? I have no idea. There are a lot of questions that I have about this. And I think there's one more actually right here. And this one I actually had to find on BitChute because like I said, it's so hard finding videos on this stuff anymore. It used to be really easy and now it's not. Now, if you're going to watch, they're going to look at that. They all blink out like that. Look at the background. The background is fine. The background is still there. Why? Because they're likely in front of a green screen. There you go, another glitch. So what is with all this CGI manipulation? What is with the harnesses? Why did it show Tim Peake on a screen in front of a chroma key screen if they are actually on the International Space Station? So Anyway, so I started just looking into the International Space Station because I thought to myself, now, wait a minute. The International Space Station is real. People see it all the time. They see it with their naked eye, floating over their house sometimes. And it will even tell you sometimes that you can see the space station on certain days. So I thought, how could this be happening? What is really going on? Is there something that is floating around in the sky that people just think is the space station? And I don't know. But so what I started looking at, first of all, is the space station in general. The space station is 357 feet end to end, 1 yard shy. 1 yard shy of the full length of an American football field, including the end zones. So we're going to go back to these pictures here. And one question that I started thinking about was satellites. Why is it in all of these live feeds that they have supposedly of that they get from going over the earth, you never see satellites in any of those? Where are all the satellites? If you look here, it tells us that currently, there are thousands of man-made satellites constructed by many countries around the world in space. By 2013, approximately 3,600 of them were still orbiting the Earth. And yet not once have we ever seen a satellite in any of the feeds that we get from the ISS. And it tells us right here that these satellites are ranging from 300 to 600 miles. And it tells us here that the space station is at an average altitude of 248 miles. So if they're around the same altitude, why aren't we ever, I can understand that you might not see it sometimes. Why are we never seeing these satellites? And now if you actually go back to the size, let's go back to the size, because this is something else that I started thinking about, so the space station is 357 feet end to end. It says it's 1 yard shy of the full length of an American football field, including the end zones. And then we're going to go back to how many miles up is it? Well, it's 248 miles up. We can round it to 250. Sometimes you see that it says, right here, it says 250. So I started thinking about airplanes. How big are airplanes? Well, let's see. A Boeing 747 is 231 feet, 10 inches long. So basically, we could say that the ISS is supposedly 1.5 times bigger than a Boeing 747, right? So a Boeing 747, the typical cruising altitude of that would be 30 to 40,000 feet. Okay. And I know that when I look up in the sky and I see a plane at cruising altitude, it's like a blip. I can barely make it out. And yet we can supposedly see the ISS at 250 miles away. Now let's keep in mind here, this is 30,000 to 40,000 feet. Okay. Yet we can supposedly see the ISS 250 miles away. Let's calculate that. So there's 5,280 feet in a mile times the 250 miles that it's claimed to be. So we can see the ISS at 1,320,000 feet away. And when we see an airplane, it's barely a dot, and that's only at about 40,000 feet. And even taking into account the difference of maybe the ISS being 1.5 times the size, there is no way that we should be able to see this at 1,320,000 feet. I don't know. It sounds preposterous to me. And they try to say that it's because of the solar shields that are on it. But even that, it just doesn't make sense to me. But again, I keep going back to, well, all right, though, they do say that it's up there. Something has to be up there. And then I happened to come across a video in which I learned about this. In 1997, long before you could buy a drone at your neighborhood electronics store, NASA began using sun-power solar cells on its unmanned, remotely piloted, solar-powered high-altitude aircraft. One of them, Pathfinder Plus, set an altitude record of 80,201 feet. So it's interesting that in 1997, NASA purchased this solar-powered drone, and it was 2000, only 3 years later, that all of a sudden they're saying, okay, the ISS is up and running, people can live there now. And so I looked at pictures of some of these drones. And I don't know. If you ask me, when you look at some of these drones, especially maybe this one, if you would put some of those panels on it, it surely would look an awful lot like what people see flying up in the sky. And it would make a lot more sense if these were actually flying lower than what they claim to be. And that is how people are seeing them with the naked eye. And if they are solar powered drone, it means that no, there's not anyone on them then. And that's just a question. So the one issue that I had with drones at first was, well, really, how long could a drone even stay up there? And that was before I knew about solar-powered drones. But even with solar-powered drones, I thought, how long can solar-powered drones stay up there? Well, according to this, solar-powered drone could fly nonstop for 5 years. So yeah, that seems to make sense that could very well work out if you would have a solar powered drone up there that maybe had some solar shields on. Because here's the thing, I always tell you that I don't want to tell you what you should be thinking about these things. But these are a lot of questions that we really need to start asking. Why are there so many glitches in the ISS videos? How can we possibly see the International Space Station at over 1 million feet away when we can barely see an airplane that really isn't that much smaller than it, only 40,000 feet away? That is a huge difference, because even if the ISS was twice the size of an airplane, that would still be 80,000 feet that the ISS should barely be able to be visible, because that would be double the cruising altitude for a 747. Yet it's over 1 million feet, guys. None of this is making sense to me. And so a question that people ask is why? Why would they need to fake this? And I think that one really big reason about why, look at their budget. Their annual budget, $22.6 billion. $22.6 billion, guys. And we're getting CGI footage, CGI glitches in their International Space Station live feeds. Now, I'm talking live feeds. There are so many more that you could look up for yourself. But this is what I'm talking about. You can't be afraid to ask questions just because other people might get uncomfortable about it. This is about getting to the truth, and this is about just getting to know what is really going on. That's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one over on Instagram, because YouTube disables my comments. And if you like my work and would like to check out my Patreon page, I will leave a link in the description box for that as well. And I hope you have a great day.